Today, I want to address a comment that was left on a video I made about a year ago called Secular Talk Wants to Turn America into Denmark. And it was in response to a video that Kyle Kalinske made about healthcare. And usually I don't respond to comments on my videos that are arguing with points that I make in my videos. But this comment makes a lot of points that I really want to tackle, so let's jump into it. On healthcare, I disagree with you completely. All this video is denying the social contract. So what is this social contract? I googled it and it says that the social contract is the implicit idea that everyone gives up individual freedoms in exchange for security and social benefits. And I say to hell with that. I want complete freedom. I want all of my individual freedoms. I am a radical for freedom. I'm not going to sacrifice them for any arbitrary social benefits or security. I mean, I will do it today, practically speaking, because I don't think life is worth throwing away for protests that ultimately won't go anywhere. But what is this social contract? Why are they throwing this term around? Basically, when people throw this term around, they're trying to get you to suspend your thinking, your independent judgment, and just go along with whatever society is doing, whatever society wants. Social contract. I never signed a fucking contract, okay? No one ever gave me a contract with terms of services and said, hey, sign on the dotted line. Is there an expiration date on this contract? Is there an expiration date to where we can renegotiate in the future if I'm not satisfied with this social contract? And since when is healthcare part of this social contract? Who decided that healthcare was part of this social contract? Why not have a right to a house, a right to internet service, a right to a cell phone, a right to an automobile? Shit. A right to a flying car when they get invented, a right to a trip to Disneyland. Why only healthcare? And of course, they go on to say there should be things that are just off the table when it comes to the free market. And again, I disagree. I think the only thing that should be completely off the table when it comes to the free market is the retaliatory use of force, because if that's on the table, well, then you don't have a free market. You just have a society where everyone can arbitrarily take the law into their own hands and interpret the law however they wish. It would be complete anarchy, and it's not compatible with capitalism and the free market. It's no secret that the American healthcare system is a nightmare, and I actually agree. And all of these pundits and politicians who shit on Medicare for all can't name a single country where privatized healthcare works efficiently. So two things. First off, yeah, they can't because no such country exists. There's no country on the planet where healthcare is completely privatized. Even in the United States, yeah, in some aspects, the healthcare and health insurance industries are privatized, are free, but you also have a lot of controls, a lot of regulations, subsidies, wealth redistribution programs like Medicare and Medicaid. You had price fixing during World War II. And ever since Medicare and Medicaid, ever since the Great Society, there have been more regulations added, more price controls to bring down the costs for the elderly and the poor who are guaranteed hospital beds and drug prescriptions and care from doctors. And now you have Obamacare, which is even more controls on health care and health insurance. Now, for a while, people were forced to have health insurance. Depending on which state you live in, some insurance companies are forced to carry certain things on their policy. Secondly, by what standard does privatized medicine not work efficiently? Work efficiently by what standard? We need a standard for whether or not it works. Does it work in the sense that every citizen in the country gets covered, gets health care if and when they need it? Does it work in the sense of innovation? Does it work for care providers and doctors and hospitals and insurance companies that have to take discounts and make sacrifices? That's what the Mercatus report from those evil Koch brothers said. Yeah, the $32 trillion that would allegedly save Americans money requires a lot of price fixing on doctors and care providers. It estimates that up to 80% of hospitals could go bankrupt. Yeah, does it work for those hospitals that might go bankrupt? Does it work for the doctors that have to take pay cuts and the drug companies that have to take pay cuts and all the innovation and lack of competition in the marketplace? Does it work on that standard? Yeah, so you can't just throw, oh, it works, it doesn't work. You need to have a standard. From a personal perspective, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to address anecdotal claims. Technically, this is all private taxes to insurance companies. Yeah, there's no such thing as private taxes. However, I don't even have to go on a personal level. Okay, well then why did you? 35 to 45,000 people die every year from a lack of basic health care in the United States. This is a bullshit way to look at it. No one has ever died from a lack of health care. That is not a legitimate cause of death. If someone gets wounded or if someone gets a disease and they can't afford the treatment or they don't have health insurance and they die as a result, you would say that they died from the wound or they died from the disease. You would not say that they died from a lack of services or a lack of health care. With equal logic, we could declare that anyone that's ever died from drowning died from a lack of flotation devices, or anyone that's died from a gunshot wound died from a lack of access to bulletproof vests. Lack of health care is not a legitimate cause of death. Recent poll numbers show now that a slight majority of Republicans are for Medicare for all, on top of the over 80% of Democrats for it as well. Well, so what? I don't care what Democrats or Republicans think. Again, they're throwing out these arguments that are meant to suspend my judgment and just go along with what everyone else thinks. Just go with the flow, go with whatever the majority of people think. And sorry, I don't work that way. Should Galileo have worked that way? When he discovered that the Earth revolved around the sun, should he have just said, well, the rest of the population thinks that the sun revolves around the Earth, so I'm just going to suspend my judgment and evade science and evade the facts of reality. Get the fuck out of here. So your appeal to culture does not stand to what actual Americans want. Well, I don't know if I ever made that point, but if I did, I guess I stand corrected. You would think that in a democracy that an overwhelming majority of people wanting universal health care would lead to some kind of progress, right?
Wrong.
First off, America is not a democracy. It was never meant to be a democracy. The founding fathers were against what they called the tyranny of the majority. So let me get this straight. If the majority of Americans want to bring back slavery or want to construct concentration camps or want to delete the First Amendment, those would be legitimate arguments. Again, just because the population thinks a certain way doesn't mean that they're right or that their ideas are good. What if the majority of Americans wanted to impose Sharia law or some form of Christian theocracy? Should we just go along with it because that's what the majority wants? But no, you have insurance companies lobby politicians to spread misinformation to vote against the people's interests. That's right, I'm not thinking for myself. I'm just being brainwashed by these insurance companies and their propaganda. So that's why I'm for Medicare for all. Well, sorry, time-lapse, none of your arguments are convincing at all, and I still want fully privatized medicine in America.